All right. It's Christopher Williams here, back with another RV talk in Arizona. Really happy to be joined with Alberto Plantillas, who is the Central Regional Director of the Arizona Student Association. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Pleasure to be here.
Excited to sort of get into some things around voter engagement and then also some fun questions as well.
Of course.
But just to start, curious, how did you get into the space that you're in now?
It started through an old fellowship program through the Andrew Goodman Foundation, I believe. It was called All Power to All Voters. So that kind of got me engaged. A lot of it was about learning court cases relating to voting rights, but also it ended up connecting to other things like volunteering with other nonprofits that do the same work. And I started volunteering then with the Arizona Students Association. And I've been with them for about 2 years now.
2 years, wow.
And it was a great experience. It's been a great experience so far. And a lot of our focus is on student issues, but also on making sure that those student issues are being represented at the state level. And we also work with the federal administration on student debt cancellation. And we also continually do get out to vote campaigns as well.
So what does your day-to-day look like?
Right now in the summer, we're doing full-on GOTV canvassing. So I'm directing the field at least 5 days a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Since it's really hot in Phoenix, we do
that's an understatement.
It's an understatement. Yeah.
Fiery out here.
Yeah. Today was a cool day.
Wow.
But pretty much I get to the office more or less around noon, and then I start preparing for the canvassing. We usually canvass from 3 to 7 p.m. because of the heat. And on weekends we do 2 shifts. We do 10 to 2s and 3 to 7s. And everyone that we hired, we have 17 fellows in this region. They canvass. They canvass in groups, and pretty much we just give people reminders on when to vote, and we also collect the commit to vote cards, which we do to survey people on the issues they care about the most. And the last thing was collecting petitions for the abortion ballot access initiative here, the Arizonans for Abortion Access.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your target demographic, is it just all eligible voters? Is it 18 to 25-year-olds, or sort of who are you trying to get at and serve most?
So, very specifically, like 18 to 40-year-olds is what we're thinking. That's like the prime student age. 18 to 25, like you were saying, that's probably even closer of a focus. So, we do organize mostly out of universities and community colleges. We have 4 branches right now. We have a chapter in Yuma, we have a chapter in Flagstaff, Tucson, and Phoenix as well. So
you're in school too doing
that? I graduated in December, and I'm starting my master's in August.
Wow.
I'm doing public policy.
Where are you doing your master's?
Oh, Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm staying there for now.
So we ran into some people the other day. Is there like a huge beef between Arizona State and the University of Arizona? Was confused on that a little bit.
You could say that. Yeah. We have a regional director in Tucson, so I try not to start the beef that much. But it's more of a friendly competition, but it can get intense. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with the final matches of the season and all that.
And so going more so back to voting, I'm curious. Have you always been passionate about this space? How did you get into it? Did you have a background in it from your family, or was it something that you said, "Hey, I can't sit back"? Like, how did you get into this space?
I think myself not knowing, I wasn't really conscious about the decision, but maybe after the 2016 election, a lot of people just felt like they had to participate in some way. And up to that point, I was just reading the news all the time. That's kind of how I kept up with current events. And, it turned out to be an asset, the fact that I just knew all these things about politics and ideologies and current events. Just being able to apply that in the nonprofit space. I feel like that helped me develop a lot. I did start with a lot of volunteer opportunities or just paid fellowships.
Yeah.
And, I was able to leverage that into basically getting a full-time job as the regional director. Wow. So, it's been hard work, but I'm very proud of the work we've done here, yeah.
What would be one of the examples of one of the more rewarding times that you could point to in doing this work?
So at the beginning of every year, we do what's called the Youth Empowerment Summit. We go to the state capitol and we lobby for bills, for or against bills, pretty much. A couple of years ago, we helped kill one of the bathroom bills that was trying to go on here.
Yeah.
To discriminate against LGBTQ individuals. So we advocated against that bill, and we made sure it didn't leave committee. Another victory we've had, well, I guess last year, we were able to secure funding for public education and the Teachers Academy. But this year, I'm pretty sure there was a cut of about 20 million or so.
Wow.
So yeah, we were trying to negotiate with the stakeholders on budget meetings and all that, but you know, it didn't turn out as like the best outlook for any public institution in Arizona.
And I'm curious as to how you're sort of received when you go in those spaces where there's likely older individuals in there. You're a younger individual, and you're doing the work and you're doing it well. From my research and from speaking with you, how is it going into that space and knowing that people have 20, 30 years, 40 years on you?
No, it can be intimidating for sure. But I try not think about it a lot. I try to be formal but informal at the same time. So, you know, getting to know people first before we even get to the topic of like discussing policy or anything. Yeah. But I mean, there's definitely a power imbalance there for sure. And it's like, you know, even though we might be in contact with stakeholders, sometimes, you know, they obviously don't like resonate with our opinions and views, but you know, we still meet with Republicans every year and see if they can help us with anything relating to education. They usually don't, but you know, like we got to keep trying. We're a nonpartisan nonprofit, so we try to get help from as many people as we can. And you know, we think like these issues align with everyday students and everyday Arizonans pretty much. You know, right now we're doing like, for example, student debt cancellation. We're working to get signatures for the abortion petition as well. And, you know, we have constant efforts for things like climate change or housing affordability and all of that. So, I mean, you know, it's going to be a rough year, but we'll see how next year ends up.
And you say a rough year. That brings me to the 2024 election. What are
this year.
Yes. What are your thoughts on it? In the general sense, and how you feel the state of democracy is in America. I know I hear a lot about people our age saying, "Why am I even voting? There's no good option on the ballot. I'm just not going to vote." Like, what are you feeling? And then what do you say to people that sort of feel, I'm not doing this?
Well, I mean, there's obviously an information problem, like just information literacy in general, where, you know, information, like there's low information literacy, so people at the same time are not plugged into the election, but they might also just not know a lot of the facts about the candidates or what their policy platforms are in general. And it obviously stresses people out when, like, you know, the economy's like struggling and like, you know, there's an affordability crisis that we keep talking about so that, you know, our legislators do something about it. But this affordability crisis is like, it will stress anyone out. And you know, people sometimes they just see this binary option with the two candidates. And you know, for example, some of the most important races can be your state house reps or your state senators, or even, for example, your secretary of state, like you were saying. For example, here on the last cycle, we had Adrian Fontes against Mark Lamb, I think. And Mark Lamb was like, you know, he was pretty much alluding that if there's any Democrat wins, like, you know, the whole election system is, you know, like corrupt or whatever. And you know, we have to dispel these falsehoods whenever we can. So, you know, a lot of it is vote for democracy, like you were saying, specifically in like Secretary of State races. I mean, even statewide, because the legislatures have to certify these votes. So we're just looking out and making sure that, you know, everyone's transparent about what they're doing, and you know, people aren't lying. And we're hoping to actually get at least the county recorder or the Secretary of State or both in a town hall so that students can also express their concerns about this election cycle. So
would you say, and I bring this up as a general question because we've heard a lot on all sides on our cross-country trip about still having faith in America, and others saying just they're going to do what they're going to do, have no faith. Do you still have faith in this American democracy, this American system? Do you still have hope in what it can be? And how do you get someone else to feel that same way if you do have hope?
Yeah, this reminds me of, like, I was looking at this random picture the other day, but it was a teacher in Afghanistan. He just had maybe 10 to 20 kids outside. There was just a blanket, and he had kind of like a board like this, and that's how he was teaching kids, right in the middle of nowhere in the plain desert, And I was just there has to be hope in the system. There has to be at least a little bit of hope in the system, because this country is not a very poor country. We have a lot of resources, we have a lot of money. It's just the way that money's being distributed. And for example, even for this budget that just got passed, we're gonna face education cuts, but it's not like the whole economy is falling apart. And I understand people that lose hope in it because they just don't see change day to day. But I mean, it's just progress is such a hard wheel to push, So it takes a long time, and I'm hopeful because we have 17 fellows in our central region, and every one of them inspires me for sure. And it reminds me that I'm not the only one fighting for this cause, and there's so many other people like me that just want to see their country improve. Yeah. And I feel like it has been improving. For example, we got medical debt cancellation. So people can now, I think they can now take it off of their bankruptcy or something like that in Arizona. The abortion petition got 750,000 signatures so far.
Wow. In the state of Arizona, wow.
Yeah, and they only need 250,000 to qualify.
Wow.
So, we help collect a lot of those, and we're super proud of that too, because it's we're part of the difference that's being made in the state. And we feel like the state has progressed in the right way for the past, maybe 6 years or so. It's just a slow burn,
Have you ever had one of those times? You mentioned some of the victories, but have you ever had one of those frustrations where you're like, why am I even doing this? Why should I go? Why can't I find something? Should I go to the private sector where I can get some guaranteed income that's worth over 200,000?
100%.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for example, last week when the budget passed, and they basically said that they were going to have to cut education, cutting funding for higher education, and Teachers Academy, and all these public schools. It just means that, for example, in the university space, that just means tuition is going to go up even more, and that doesn't help Arizonans. And tuition costs have more than doubled since the Great Recession. So we're the problem is access, and there's a lot of inequality because the people that can't afford it are always the ones that are marginalized through this whole process. And we think for Arizona to be a competitive state, you need to have very cheap college, access to cheap housing, and very good schools to support that and to actually create growth in the state as well. So that's kind of what we're working for. That's our framework, and it's really hard, And I mean, to your question, it's just, you still feel better. This feels kind of like a public service, you're helping people, you're trying to help your community, and you're trying to make sure they don't get left behind. So there's not a lot of monetary, incentives, but there's a lot of moral and social implications that I think are important for sure.
If I can shift to a more personal question, and feel free to refuse it. But I like to ask this question, sort of like a watershed moment that you had. And when I say watershed, like a turning point for you that sort of shaped who you are today. Curious as to what that was in your life that's gotten you here this far.
A watershed moment.
That rock you a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I can say I'm gonna say the beginning of this year, because we were at the state capitol for the first day of the legislature, and we just saw people from all sides, all the different parties, the nonprofits were there, all the universities were there, all the university presidents were there, And it was just like, you know, you kind of see the whole machine, like, you know, like the whole motor starting right there, where it's like, you know, you have all these people that are just gonna pass a bunch of laws, and then, you know, in the summer, you just finish the legislature like another year, you know? And it felt really important that to be there just to see how, you know, everything gets going, you know, how the whole legislative session gets going. But it was just a watershed moment for me, maybe, because I was able to see all the different chips at play and, like, all the different players and, you know, the role we play, but also the role that, you know, there's, like, a passive role we can play by making sure that, you know, we talk to our legislators and let them know what the students are expecting from them and, you know, just trying to help push the movement even more.
And you've been in Arizona all your life, or was it?
Yeah, I was born in Yuma, Arizona. I lived in Imperial Valley, California for a bit, but yeah, I've mostly lived here all my life.
So what's the best things to do in Arizona? We're obviously on a cross country trip,
Course,
so
yeah.
we want to make sure to experience some of the culture. So what is there to do? I know it's not North Carolina, so it's not anything too good. But
let's see. All right, yeah, I don't know what to say about that, but so we have the Colorado River in Yuma, Arizona, which is a really good place to just, you know, cool down. We have the Salt River here in Phoenix. There's this thing called First Fridays, so first Friday of every month. We have like a big thing in downtown as well.
I think we actually on TikTok that was advertised. So yeah
that was probably it.
Yeah.
Oh, there was also a TikTok festival like in Mesa.
Oh wow.
Months ago, yeah.
We went to South Mountain earlier today, which
South
was
Mountain's
also
really good.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
A Mountain is kind of like a classic one, just because it's the mountain next to ASU. But what else? Tempe Beach Park is right there too. That's really nice.
And so if I can ask this, do you have any time to do anything fun? What do you do in your free time? Because you're in school, public policy, and you come and you do this, organizing, get out the vote work.
Yeah, you definitely need an agenda, like a big schedule.
Yeah.
I actually need to buy a new one.
My planner, I need to get a new planner as well.
Yeah, the June planner, well, the year ends in the June planner.
Yeah,
so I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to make sure I take my breaks, at least 2 days off a week, you know? And I just like max everything out, hang out with all my friends. And my friends and loved ones and all that. But yeah, it's honestly very daunting, but I feel like at the Arizona Students Association, they've been very supportive. And they really do help develop leaders. I feel like I've improved a lot, even in the last 2 years, even in the last year, a couple months. But, you know, I'm glad to be doing this work. I'm happy to be doing this work.
Do you have any political aspirations?
Oh, no. No?
Wow.
I don't know. I mean,
you're going into public policy.
I know, but maybe I like to work in the background more, focus more on policy stuff, more on the issues. I feel like once you become a candidate, you can just become a personality, and like
that's fair,
and not like, you know, sometimes you can lose sight of the movement you started and all that. And I'm really scared of that, and I would rather focus directly on the movement and helping change people's lives in a more direct way. Also, like, you have a very strict like salary. You know? I think it's like $25,000 a year.
Okay, for state legislature.
Yeah. So you need a really good part time. You know.
Well, that means you got to go to Capitol Hill then.
Oh, come on.
It goes up a few about 100-something thousand.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. Well, I hope I get that salary. I'm not thinking about the position.
If I can ask one last question, just for, obviously we're broadcasting this and have a target audience of 18 to 25-year-olds. Curious as to any final words of wisdom, advice you would have to offer, especially as we get into the 2024 election cycle that's meant to be, to some degree, encouragement. For those who are sort of feeling apathetic, who are like, they don't care about us. Because I think that's valid.
I don't think people are wrong if they feel that the government doesn't take care of them. I feel like that's obviously, like, part of it is the deadlock in the Senate and in the House, where they just can't agree on passing anything. Yeah. So it's like we're just going to be in a political stalemate until you know, someone is willing to compromise, or there's a majority on one chamber, you know. And it's kind of annoying, and, you know, I understand it too. I get stressed out during the campaign too. But you know, part of it is just, I don't know. I also want to add, like, information literacy. A lot of people just, especially like, you know, older folks, but they just they believe everything on social media. Sometimes, you know, people my age do too. But you know, people should do their research just to make sure that, you know, like not just like the outcomes of policy, but also like what policy these two candidates are specifically aiming for. And, you know, one of our big ones is canceling student debt. We think it will be like, you know, like a new G.I. Joe bill, for example, whereas, you know, the younger population is able to invest in other things, create new businesses elsewhere, and create an economic boom because they don't have this whole baggage of like student debt holding them back. And, you know, we just think it's very similar to the G.I. Joe bill. So it's like, you know, just giving this generation what we gave to the generation of the 40s. And, you know, I think that came out really well. For example, they all became they all became homeowners, for example. And I think so many students, people our age, are just scared that they'll never be able to afford a house. And, you know, a lot of people are just thinking at that, you know, like, what candidate's going to help me buy a house? Yeah. And, you know, what candidate is going to make it more accessible? I just want to connect one last thing because I know the state attorney general, she actually sued landlords because they were doing this rent fixing scheme, and she sued them because that, you know, it's considered price fixing. Like they were fixing rents, but they were doing it through an algorithm, so it was really hard for them to basically. Well, it wasn't hard for them to find it, but they were trying to hide it with the algorithm pretty much. So you would feed rent prices into it, and then it would charge the highest rent amount, where you could create a bigger margin by leaving more empty apartments, pretty much. Oh, wow. So like renting something that used to be $700 to like $1,200 or something, and, you know, you don't care if you have a bunch of empty apartments because you're still making more money than empty apartments. Wow. Jeez. And it's like, you know, I can see change. Like this, like Attorney General, like I was saying, she was suing these landlords because it is robbery, you know, and it's illegal. It's a price fixing scheme, and it's not fair. And, you know, that's kind of why I see hope sometimes in government. Like, for example, the Attorney General right now, you know, the governor was vetoing another thing relating to, like, shared governance, whereas, you know, the U of A, where you guys just came from in Tucson, they have a huge budget crisis right now, pretty much. They are, like, at a $100 million plus deficit. Wow. And it's all because of athletics. But, you know, the mismanagement is the whole problem because students are going to be the ones that are not going to get promoted. They're cutting more, you know, like assistant positions for graduate students. Wow. And, you know, like it's going to reverberate, and it's going to affect the students, and, you know, like there's never going to be accountability from the people at the top. And, you know, I guess, that might have been a rant, but
no, that was amazing. I thank you so much for that. And what it makes me think over anything else is one thing that I've sort of gathered from this cross-country trip already, in this idea that a vote is an investment in the democracy we live in. It is very important that you do that, especially if you want to see a certain way. You got to vote. You got to educate yourself on the person who is going to advocate for that lifestyle, that way of living that you want to exist, and then you got to continue to do the work after. 100%. But it starts with this idea of educating yourself, information literacy. Can I borrow that term? I haven't heard that in that way before, so I like it.
I was reading a book on it a couple months ago, but it's so scary because, for example, like you look at 2005, and I think it was like less than a third of older Americans were on Facebook. Now it's like 60, like 80%, you know? Wow. And think about how much that changes like the perception that they have in their minds. Yeah. And, you know, it's like if you're not, you know, just like glued to Fox News, you're probably glued to your Facebook, you know, or something like that. And then you're never getting like pure, like, you know, stuff that's like peer reviewed or you know, any verified like journalistic article. You're just getting like random stuff thrown at your feed, and then, you know, people just become like agitated, like, you know, just these agitated like old seniors, and you know, I know everyone's seen it. Everyone has family members that have been through it, probably.
Well, where's our driver at? He's agitated.
Stop. They just, you know, they become really like intense. Fervent about misinformation, conspiracy theories, and maybe people our age, it's also like we grew up in this environment where we didn't trust media and we always questioned it. But, they used to see, like, Cronkite on TV, and they would just trust him automatically because I guess he was a trustworthy person.
Yeah.
But now it's, like, all these... There's no trustworthy, like, newscasters, or there's very few now. And, maybe that's also why the ecosystem broke down to, like, podcasts and, like, all these other things, too, because... they might be more transparent of it, of how they report news. And people are also stressed about that. Just the disinformation and
not knowing what to trust, even if it seems so legitimate. Like the fact that you can literally fake an image of a former president saying something that actually wasn't said. A deep fake or anything of that nature is very interesting.
The new term, the cheap fakes, too.
I have not heard that. But
so that
cheap
term
fake
is like, you're pretty much altering a video, but like you're slowing it down. For example, you slow down a video to make sure that like Biden looks like he's like weirding out or something. You just slow down the video, or
are you?
I'm being serious. Yeah, this is a new concept.
No, I'm saying is it actually some of those may be real life glitches though.
No. So I would say they slowed down the video even more than how slow he was actually being,
Wow.
So even more than and or they might just edit a video to kind of take it out of context. And it's like, oh, he's just roaming when he's trying to talk to someone, but they cut off.
Those are really believable. They pop up on my TikTok feed pretty often.
I disagree with that.
Let me stop. I thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Of course.
Please check out the rest of Alberto Plantillas' work. He's doing a lot of great things in the Arizona Student Association. So we thank you so much.
Yeah, the handle is at AZ Students as well.
At AC Students, all right. And then, And then, wow, there's a hashtag that also goes with it.
Student Power,
Yep. AZ Student Power. You can text ASA to 79606 to get involved. But thank you so much.
For sure,
really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.